This Rev3 Games episode is brought to you by Ting, mobile that makes sense. Hey guys, Tara here, and I'm currently standing on a rooftop deck in the gorgeous city of Montreal right now. We were lucky enough to be invited out here this week by Ubisoft, who wanted to show off a couple of their upcoming games, so we got to speak to some of the developers. The first game that we're going to take a look at is Far Cry 4, one I have personally been excited for months now. You are at Ubisoft Toronto, and you guys are sort of focusing on the Shangri-La part of the game.
Yeah, I'm specifically the narrative designer on Shangri-La.
Okay. So can you explain for everybody how this sort of fits into the overall game?
Well, I think the idea with Far Cry 4 was to create almost a huge, massive sort of experience, right? And they created, in Montreal, they created this region, this country called Kirat, right? And when you create a country, you want there to be like a history, like a natural, realistic sort of feeling history, right? And to do that, looking at the sort of region they were inspired by, we decided to go with creating a myth, right? Creating a myth that, you know, everyone in Kirat, all the citizens would know about, and that was Shangri-La. That's how it kind of sort of gestated into that. So when they were looking at it, it was like, how can we create that kind of breadth to the world? They turned to Ubisoft Toronto to kind of bring that myth to life. And like kind of the difference with, I guess, what you'd normally see with a myth is you normally hear people talking about it kind of in the world and sort of in the background. For Far Cry 4, what's great is you're living the legend, right? So you get to actually play the myth in real time. So the myth is, I'm a little confused about the story because in Far Cry 3 you have these, these drug trips and all this crazy stuff happens, and here it's like the craziness is amped up even more. Yeah. Is he actually experiencing these things in real life, or is this all sort of in his head? The idea, and I want to tread carefully here, but the idea is that you are gonna, as a player, be exploring Kirat, and you're going to come across these, what we call them tankas, these tapestries that tell the myth kind of in painting form, right? And when you look at the tanka, you're going to be mentally transported into the myth, right? And that's kind of the way you sort of experience it.
And is that part of the main narrative, or is this sort of more of a side thing?
It's part of the main narrative, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the actual areas where you're participating in all of this, can you give us sort of an overview? Is there a general layout to all of them, or is each of them very different from one another?
Each of them are completely different. I don't want to give too much away about what else you're going to see in Shangri-La, but the idea with Shangri-La is that it's kind of this living, breathing environment, and you're transported almost to, you get to witness Kirat thousands and thousands of years ago, right? And to do that, we almost had to create our own world logic, right? That is somewhat separate from what they were doing in Kirat. Or I guess a better way of saying it, it complements what they're doing in Kirat. So we really try to bring a lot of diversity, a lot of variety, and also give the players sort of a chance to see things and do things and experience things that they might not necessarily see in the main game. And it almost like when you get to do something like that, it's both a challenge and a blessing, because it's like, create, a mysterious mythological fantasy world. Yeah. Well, where do you stop?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, just from the looks of it, it looks extremely different than this Himalayan setting that we've been exposed to up until now. You guys also have, speaking to things that are different from the main game, you get to use a tiger here. I assume that's not the case.
Very
in the main
excited.
Game.
No, that is strictly for Shangri-La. It's kind of your tiger is sort of the ally, and what we tried to treat him not as like like a pet. Sometimes when you play games, you'll have like a companion and sort of a pet. We sort of were like, no, we're going to treat this as like a real character, living, breathing character, and we call the tiger sort of the protector of Shangri-La. He is the keeper of Shangri-La, right? So when you arrive in Shangri-La, you're going to see that it's under threat by kind of these evil demons, and the tiger is going to look at you and say, let's join forces and take this down, right? So he's more of an ally, I guess, is the way to look at it.
And it seems like you guys have enemies specific to the Shangri-La part
that
cannot be killed by you.
Yeah. You
or
can.
It would take a lot.
You can. There is a specific enemy, the Scorcher, that you really should work with the tiger. But most of the, I mean, it's the whole thing with Far Cry 4, I think, is like player choice, right? Like you want, and we treated it the same way in Shangri-La, where you have like, we have a narrative we want to tell, but the idea is we give each, I guess I'd say it's inspired by the outposts, right? So each part of the map is sort of inspired by that, and we call it like 360 gameplay, right? So it's up to you. If you want to use the tiger, you can. If you want to just go alone, that's fine. The tiger is going to, you know, do his own thing, and he's autonomous. He's going to attack enemies just as well. So it's sort of like, you know, it's really up to you. If you want to try and take down the the Scorcher on your own, you could. You probably, it'll take a while.
Yeah, I guess I misspoke. So, you can kill him. You just can't kill him with the bow.
Yeah, right.
Which is another new thing that you guys have for this. You have the crossbow in the normal part of the game, but for Shangri-La, it seems like you guys have developed a special kind of bow. Yeah,
the idea is like we wanted to take the weapon that really kind of would most represent the time period we're playing in. You know, it's thousands of years ago. It's this ancient story. So we took the bow, and then it became a question of, well, how do we kind of amp this up, right? Because we don't have all the variety of weapons that you might find in Karat. So we came up with the idea of the slow motion bow, where you can kind of slow down time and then pick off enemies, and it's really interesting. I'm seeing people play it today, and they're already getting the idea of, you know, I'll send my tiger and then I'll slow down time, and then it like simultaneous takedown. But yeah, so that was kind of where that came from. And then there's also upgrades that I'm not going to talk about now, but they're there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I assume they didn't have guns like thousands and thousands of years ago, so you probably got to get creative there. Yeah. How did you guys find the inspiration to create this world? Because it's so different than anything we've seen in a Far Cry game before.
Well, I think we started with basically kind of looking at what they've done in Karat. And they've done a lot of beautiful sort of just architecture and statues and bells and things like that. And we looked at that, and then we were like, well, let's take that and balance it with kind of an ancient myth sort of setting. So the inspiration, it's from everywhere. We looked at, you know, Hinduism, Buddhism, all that stuff, but we didn't take anything, but it was more like getting inspired by it, getting our own groove. And like story-wise, it really was even looking at things like, you know, Hercules, or the Trials of Hercules, and like, you know, creating kind of a warrior sort of experience. And we just threw it in the blender, and what you see is kind of what's there, right? And again, I think it was actually really tricky because, you know, it's almost the dream to be told, like, you know, create this amazing world. You have complete, you know, freedom to create this kind of fantasy, this myth. But the way we approached it actually was sort of interesting. Is we decided to create kind of a Shangri-La Bible, right? So this Bible was like our world logic. So everything you see in Shangri-La has a meaning. Right, you know, our enemies, when they die, they explode into powder. You know, the powder means they're transitioning, right, to another world. You know, the water you obviously saw is red. We have a myth that's actually behind that you'll be able to find in game. So it became really important to us, even if the player might not necessarily pick it up right away. They feel it. Right? When they're playing, they feel like, oh, this has been thought out. They've taken their time with this, right? It's not just some random event.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, I think it speaks a lot to the creativity of both Ubisoft Toronto and Ubisoft Montreal, that you guys can sort of look to one another for inspiration.
Oh, absolutely. Like it was the funny thing is I was just talking about this with someone. It was collaboration in every sense of the word, and I was expecting, like, okay, this is co-dev, this is going to be interesting. But it was just honestly one of the best experiences I've had in the industry, because they placed a lot of trust in us, and we just did our best to deliver. And we were, like, I was in constant communication with the narrative team over in Montreal, the lead writer over there, Lucien Solban, and narrative director Mark Thompson, and it was really just like they would come up with something over there, and then they'd let me know, and it's like, oh, well, we can do this in Shangri-La, and then like they'd see parts of Shangri-La, and like, oh, we can feed that into Karat, right? So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's how great games get made, right?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Cheers, thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting you.
So that was a first look at Far Cry 4. We are going to have another video, another interview I did with a different developer on the game as well. That'll be coming later this week, so watch out for that. And then, of course, we're going to have some other videos as well this week on Assassin's Creed. Anyone with a cell phone knows just how expensive they can be to maintain. Most carriers come with hidden fees, little to no customer service, and they charge an insane amount of money regardless of how much data you actually use. But not Ting. Ting is a new cell phone service that only charges you for the data you actually use. It supports an unlimited number of devices, including the ones you already own, and best of all, their customer service is top-notch. Never again will you be forced to talk to a series of robots. No matter what time of day you call, you'll get a real live human on the other line. And did we mention that it's cheap? The average Ting customer pays only $21 a month for one device. Head over to rev3games.ting.com and click on their savings calculator to see just how much money Ting can save you. That URL will also get you $25 off your first bill, and remember, every sign-up helps support Rev3 Games and puts money back in your wallet. This is a gorgeous game.
Right, seeing it up close is a lot better than seeing it like you might have seen it with crappy YouTube compression.
Exactly,
like
and you notice the small details, like when you go into the palace, the paintings on the ceilings, the light coming through the windows, the costumes. It's all really, really detailed and
pretty.
beautiful.
For sure.
They have made